The cargo bay of the stellar drift hummed with the familiar sound of plasma torches and grinding metal. Kanat wiped the grease from his hands, surveying the half-dismantled engine core that had been giving him trouble for the past 3 hours. As the ship's chief mechanic, he'd seen his fair share of bizarre malfunctions, but this contraband shipment was something else entirely. "Bella, hand me the thermal scanner," he called out to his assistant, a sharp-eyed engineer who'd been working the merchant routes for 5 years. Bella tossed him the device without looking up from her datapad. "You know, when the manifest said exotic specimens, I thought we were talking about plants or something. Not whatever these crystalline eggs are." Kanat approached the cargo container, scanner in hand. 12 iridescent eggs sat nestled in temperature-controlled foam, each one roughly the size of a human head. They pulsed with a faint bioluminescence that seemed almost hypnotic. The manifest listed them as Draconis stellaris specimens, bound for a xenobiology research station in the Andromeda sector. "They're beautiful," Kanat murmured, reaching out to touch one. The moment his calloused fingers made contact with the smooth surface, the egg began to crack. "Oh no, oh no, oh no." Bella rushed over, her face pale. "The temperature regulator. Did you check the temperature regulator?" But it was too late. The egg split open with a crystalline chime, and something small and wet tumbled into Kanat's oil-stained hands. It was no bigger than a cat, with translucent wings folded against its serpentine body. Scales that shifted between silver and gold caught the harsh bay lights. 2 enormous eyes, intelligent, curious, and impossibly blue, blinked up at him. The creature made a sound, somewhere between a chirp and a purr, then nuzzled against Kanat's chest, leaving a small streak of egg fluid on his work jumpsuit. "Congratulations," Bella said dryly. "You're a father." "That's not funny." Kanat held the baby dragon at arm's length, but the creature's wings fluttered frantically, tiny claws scrabbling in the air until he brought it close again. The moment it touched his chest, it calmed, cooing contentedly. Over the next few hours, they tried everything. Bella attempted to hold the creature. It shrieked and tried to fly back to Kanat. They placed it in a heated enclosure. It wailed until Kanat opened the door. They even tried introducing it to the ship's cat. The cat took one look and fled. "I think it's imprinted on you," Bella said, consulting her datapad. According to the xenobiology database, Draconis stellaris are highly intelligent and bond with the first sentient being they see. In their natural habitat, that would be their mother. But I'm a human mechanic who smells like engine coolant," Kanat finished, looking down at the small dragon that had fallen asleep in his lap, tiny puffs of steam escaping its nostrils with each breath. "The research station isn't going to like this," Bella warned. "These creatures are worth millions. They'll expect delivery in perfect condition." Kanat's jaw tightened. He'd seen enough corporate exploitation in his years working the outer colonies. "What will they do with them?" Bella's silence was answer enough. The dragon, Kanat had started calling it Spark in his mind, woke up and immediately began exploring his workbench. It showed remarkable intelligence, carefully avoiding the hot surfaces and investigating tools with delicate sniffs. When Kanat resumed work on the engine, Spark watched intently, its head tilting as it observed each movement. Then something extraordinary happened. A coupling wrench slipped from Kanat's grasp, falling toward the exposed reactor core, a fall that would cause a chain reaction and potentially breach the containment field. Before Kanat could react, Spark launched itself forward in a blur of silver wings. The baby dragon caught the wrench in its mouth, landed gracefully on the deck, and brought it back to Kanat like a proud retriever. "Did you see that?" Kanat breathed. The reaction time, the spatial awareness. Bella, this creature understood cause and effect. Over the following days, Spark's abilities became even more apparent. The dragon learned to recognize different tools by name within hours. It began mimicking Kanat's movements, using its small claws to tighten bolts or hold components steady. When Kanat worked in tight spaces, Spark would squeeze through gaps and relay information with a series of chirps that Kanat was beginning to understand. But it was more than just intelligence. Spark showed empathy. When Kanat burned his hand on a hot pipe, the dragon crooned softly and pressed its cool scales against the injury. When Bella worked late into the ship's night cycle, Spark curled up on her shoulder, keeping her company with gentle purrs. "We can't deliver them," Kanat said finally, staring at the 11 remaining eggs. "These aren't specimens. They're people." Bella nodded slowly. "The research station will send hunters. We'll be blacklisted from every legitimate trade route in 3 sectors." Then we go to the outer rim. I've got contacts in the frontier colonies, places where the corporations can't reach. Kanat scratched Spark behind its delicate ear ridges, and the dragon's eyes half closed in contentment. We'll find these dragons a real home. Somewhere they can be free. Spark chirped in agreement, tiny sparks of electricity dancing between its growing horns, a sign of excitement Kanat had learned to recognize. As the stellar drift altered course toward the lawless frontier, Kanat felt something he hadn't experienced in years working the corporate shipping lanes. Purpose. This little dragon, this impossible creature that thought a grease-stained human mechanic was its father, had reminded him why humanity had reached for the stars in the first place. Not for profit, not for power, but for the chance to protect the vulnerable, to nurture the innocent, and to prove that sometimes the best family was the one you chose, even if it had scales, wings, and breathed sparks of starfire. Spark climbed onto Kanat's shoulder, wings spreading proudly as the ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying them all toward freedom.